Good morning, bonjour, and welcome to Native News Online's election coffee break. This is a new segment that we're doing. So this is our first morning chat. So grab a coffee and listen in while we discuss the latest November 2024 election coverage with our very own Native News Online staff.
Hey, and I'm Levi Rickard. I am citizen of the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation. Bonjour, everyone. Happy to be here, and we have extensive coverage of election 2024 coming up for you. I'm going to introduce Marlon. Marlon, take it away.
Yeah, my name's Marlon White Eagle, and I'm working with Native News Online, doing some election coverage, and it's been a pleasure so far working with Levi and Neely. And I'm coming in from Wisconsin, the Ho Chunk Nation, former president of the Ho Chunk Nation, former editor of our tribal newspaper, the Ho Chunk Wodak. So it's good to be getting back and writing and reporting.
And I am Neely. I'm the political editor, recent graduate from Michigan State, and we're here to talk about the recent announcement of Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick that is going to be running with her on the ballot. And Levi, if they get elected, there is some special exciting news for Indian country that would happen if they get elected. Would you care sharing it with us?
Sure, and we've been planning election coverage since late last year, but as we got into it, strikes me this morning with the announcement that Vice President Harris has chosen Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. What will happen is Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan will become governor, and she is a tribal citizen of the White Earth Ojibwe, which will make her the first female American Indian, Native American, however you want to say it, governor ever. And that's pretty exciting news. Marlon, are you excited about that news?
That's very exciting news. I was going through looking at news organizations on the television and seeing, Mark Kelly was one of the considered candidates, as well as Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, the governor, and Tim Walz. It was interesting to see him. He was at the counter convention that the Dems had during the RNC down the road here in Milwaukee.
Oh, and you were there. You saw him.
Yeah, he was there, and it was interesting. They had a co-chair for then the Biden-Harris campaign, Veronica Escobar, representative out of Texas, and Governor Walz was there to talk about the campaign and the really stark contrast that we see in this presidential election.
So what do you guys think the outcome on the Native vote is going to be with her vice presidential pick? I know, Levi, earlier you were telling me about some of the things that Walz has done for Indian country. And I guess I'm wondering, what do you guys think is going to happen with the Native vote? Will more Natives get out and vote now that he's been chosen? Or will it still kind of be a little bit of a fight to get our people out to the polls?
And I'm not quite sure that the vice president took this under consideration. However, it's worth talking about. There are battleground states, and I know that people are pushing Governor Shapiro because Pennsylvania is a battleground state, in that obviously the Democrats want to capture that, keep it blue, because it was blue in 2020. But the Native vote in 7 states, I'll name them: North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Colorado, Nevada, and Arizona, can make the difference. It's the tipping point. There's enough Native Americans, and you could argue President Biden is the president today because the margins were so slim in some states. And Marlon, you live in Wisconsin. You know that margin was 11,000 votes or less. And then when you think that, I was hearing reports out of Wisconsin, and for the Menominee tribe in particular in 2020, like 89%, as my memory serves me right, voted for Biden. So you could argue that vote was so critical. And I think with the announcement of Tim Walz running Peggy Flanagan, enough Native Americans here, they're going to get pretty excited. And I think that just increased. I'm not an expert in this, but I would imagine that just grabbed a good 10-20% of Native American votes just with that move. But the thing is, the message has got to get out, and that's partly what Native News Online does. We obviously have to be nonpartisan in this, but the excitement, we can be excited about a Native American governor in the future if that works out. And Marlon, will you agree with me on that Native vote in Wisconsin in particular really helped make the difference in 2020?
Oh yeah, that was a really critical, I guess, help for the Biden to get into the White House. That the tribes here in Wisconsin did turn out, in numbers, making an impact on that. And I feel like, with the number of Native appointments that President Biden has done over the last few years here as president, that, that was definite indicator that he knew that the Native vote helped him. And, I think that's one of the things that Vice President Harris might be looking at, as well as knowing she needs that Native vote to turn out, and calling on Governor Walz to be the running mate, and then the potential of Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, becoming the Minnesota governor has to be, part of the part of the playbook for the Harris Walz campaign, for sure.
It's definitely exciting news. And luckily for us, we get to go to the Harris campaign rally on Wednesday. And so me and Levi are going to the one in Michigan, and Marlon, you're going to the one in Wisconsin. I guess, what are you hoping to see at what are we hoping to see at the rallies tomorrow? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of excitement regarding around the new VP pick. So, Levi, let's start with you. What are you hoping to see at the rally tomorrow?
Well, I think in particular, I think that we need to really look at what the message is. And now that there is a Tim Walz ticket, we will be monitoring, and it may not be at the rally in Detroit, but we want to know what their stance is. Last election cycle, the Biden-Harris campaign put out a 15-page document detailing what their plans were for Indian country and how they wanted to govern as it relates to Native Americans. And one of the things was have Native Americans in high places. Well, he fulfilled that promise. The president did, starting with the nomination of Deb Haaland as the secretary. First time ever a Native American, she's Laguna Pueblo, first time ever a Native American has served in a presidential cabinet in a secretarial role. So that's it. And when I go to these things, Neely, I actually look around. Are there tribal leaders there? You and I covered First Lady Biden when she came to Michigan. Yes, we ran into Chairman Peters from the Gun Lake tribe. So that's what I look for. I mean, how many natives are in the room? Do I recognize anybody? And try to get over there. Sometimes the crowds are huge. It's impossible to get to everybody. But sometimes if they're small enough, you can actually, we can talk to the fellow Native Americans. Almost every place I go to the powwows. That's this Potawatomi gathering this last weekend, and I was asking people about their voting preferences. So, as I said, we're trying to really do a good job with the election coverage. I'm speaking as a Native American Potawatomi man. I think it's essential that Native Americans vote. And this apathy that seems to be out there, oh, you can't trust the government. You know what the reality is, folks? This is 2024. We have got to deal with it as Native Americans. We coexist in this modern day society. We can talk about colonialism all day long, but our reality is we live here. We are citizens. Those of us who are members of federally recognized tribes, we are dual citizens. It's our responsibility. I like to say it this way, Neely: if I'm going to pay taxes, I'm going to vote. And you call it the white man's election if you want, but I'm going to vote because our vote really does make a difference. And the president, members of Congress, they influence so much money, or excuse me, decisions on how much money is spent in any country is essential. We get to vote. Marlon, do you have those same sentiments?
Yeah, definitely. I have those sentiments. And just yesterday, uh, our tribe, the Ho Chunk Nation, had a special election. We had a vice president that had resigned, and so yesterday I went to vote in a tribal election, and then while I was doing some of the work for the paper about voter registration, I learned that I could do the early absentee voting. So I, talked to my wife and kids, and we went to go vote yesterday for.
Nice.
Wisconsin has a August 13 partisan primary.
Sure.
And so we went to go cast our ballots early we did the early voting yesterday. So.
And I voted today in the Michigan primaries. We're recording this on Tuesday, but yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, Neely, I do have a question for you, though. You're the one that came up with the name Coffee Break. Where's my cup of coffee? I'm
I know. We're going to have to go for a coffee run next time. We are in different states. We are in different cities. So we'll have to coordinate a DoorDash.
We're going to coordinate this a little better. But to our viewers, just to have a little fun there, we are calling this a coffee break. We'll be coming to you a couple times a week from now until the election. We're going to have some fun with it. So keep watching. How's that? Neely, what else do we have to talk about?
Well, okay, on top of us both going to the Harris rallies on Wednesday, we also are all going to the Democratic National Convention in a few, I think it's a week and some change.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes. And we'll be heading to Chicago, and we'll be right in the thick of it. I know you and Marlon went to the Republican National Convention, so it'll be really interesting to see the difference in experience that you guys both have. Obviously, the Democratic National Convention, like the Republican National Convention, is usually where the party announces their policy platform that they're going to be running on. I guess, what are you guys hoping to see on that policy platform?
Marlon, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think what I'm looking for is, we did, Native News Online did the survey, and one of the things that was surprising to me was protection of sacred sites. So I think a lot of the things out there, I remember the Bear Ears. They wanted to come in and take some resources out there, uranium, so protecting those type of things seemed like that would be important. Obviously that's what the survey showed, is that a lot of the natives are interested in that, protecting these sites that we have around not only our local tribal communities, but across the U.S. I think that's a really that's something that I'll be looking for in there, is how are they willing to protect these homelands of the indigenous tribal nations. Other than that, I think some of the economic factors, the inflation, and I was learning about that today, about inflation and how the interest rate wasn't raised recently, and then how the job market kind of played a role in whether or not they were going to raise it. So that, those economic factors are I think it's on the voters' minds.
Yeah. And I know we have to bring this to a close, but real quick, I just want to see what type of commitment Kamala Harris has with her running mate, Tim Walz, for Native Americans, as keeping the momentum going of maybe getting another cabinet member who's in the presidential cabinet who's Native American. President Biden actually nominated more people to be federal judges than any president in the history of the United States. And I want to say he nominated 6, and there's been less than right around 10 or 11. I can't remember, but he has a good record. I want to see if that momentum continues. And I'm encouraged because everything I've heard from Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, Tim Walz was a great governor, and he is very committed to Native Americans and Indian country, particularly in Minnesota. But hopefully this will transform to the national level with his commitment. And they'll have a great advisor with hopefully Governor Flanagan at some point. So thanks, Neely, for putting this together so quickly.
Yes, of course. I think it's always important to have a little bit of a more casual conversation about election stuff, especially since this is such an important election. So, miigwech to our viewers for joining us today. We hope you can tune in